The crowd just wanted The Rock to come out and insult everyone. The Rock wants his title shot, and The Rock wants it tonight. Kane's pyro hits. Rock, you got it all wrong. I am the number one contender, and I want my title shot now. We're starting the night with 3 number one contenders, ending the night with none. Welcome to Tales from the Attitude Era.
Spoiler alert.
Well, 25 years ago, or almost 25 and a half years ago, let's say. Welcome as always. It's Tales from the Attitude Era. Rob Pasbani here from thestunner.com, joined as always by former WWE writer and man about town, Tommy Blacha. Welcome, sir.
Cheers.
And we're recapping today the Monday Night Raw from June 5th, 2000. We're entering the final stretch of the final quarter of TV shows on the USA Network for WWE for quite a while.
Yeah.
Which
really means
matters.
nothing.
Yeah, nothing to what we're doing.
Yeah.
I do see in the Observer when I check in, and there's always these legal battles. Like USA Network tried to stop WWE from moving. They argue that they didn't let them offer a competitive response to the Spike TV deal or whatever. But as we all know, it still ended up going through.
Yeah. And also, Vince loved all that stuff, just as far as like, if I'm not being sued or there isn't lawyer controversy and all that, he's not happy. It's all like, and it's weirdly true too. It's all great business too, like in the trades. Oh, they want to leave, but they don't want to let them leave. That's just like that's just such great positive publicity all the time, Right. And it's like, if you don't want them to leave, pay them more money, right? Like that's all. Yeah. It's really all. I guess they also did want the MTV crossover, right? With you started working with MTV a lot, and I'm sure they felt it would have been more valuable to be on TNN and have that 1 hour Sunday Night Heat on MTV than to stay with USA. That wasn't really doing much. Yeah, I guess. Well, there's always wherever it lands, there's the spin that makes it better. It's like, yeah, who cares? But yeah, business is good. Money's huge. Everyone wants it.
It's the summertime. The weather's getting warmer. Is it a little easier to travel in the summer, I'm guessing? Less layers to pack, or it doesn't really matter?
It doesn't really matter. You never packed anything anyway, like hotel, airport, arena. Sometimes I would even forget, like, let me go outside for a cigarette. Hit with humidity. Oh, right. I'm in Miami.
Gotcha.
Unless you get like snowed in or some stuff, but but generally no. Well, this was this was good because this was Rochester, so this was fun. Just just drive up there.
Oh, really? Rochester seems like a long drive. It's like a 7 or 8 hour drive.
Oh yeah, you're right. I guess we did fly. I don't even remember. Who knows?
Or is that? It's like by Buffalo. Yeah, like Rochester and Buffalo.
Yeah.
I feel are like.
Oh yeah, it is. That's right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So.
But still East Coast, same time zone. No. It's interesting, though, at the beginning of the show, clearly Vince is a little embarrassed to be in Rochester because when Jim Ross welcomes everyone to the show, you see the live graphic, but you don't see where they are. And it's not really mentioned until wrestlers start mentioning it to get cheap heat.
Right.
But they don't really talk about it initially, that we are at the Blue Cross Arena in Rochester, New York.
Yeah, I don't know why that is. Just happened.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Another
either.
glitch. Yeah. Also, regime, faction, regime, etc.
We get a recap of SmackDown where there's 3 number one contenders to end the show, which were, if you recall, Undertaker, The Rock, and the returning Kane, who's getting a big push right now. And it's cool because this Kane push is deserving. I feel, he's been kind of an upper mid-card purgatory with dealing with X-Pac and this Tory storyline. And now that Undertaker came back, he's kind of rejuvenated.
Yeah, I don't know if I guess always putting things into like mid-card, top card, I guess it makes some sense. But someone like him, he reminds me of The Undertaker, where they were like a side phenomena in terms of what was so great about having them is like they didn't need to be in the mix. A lot of guys are like, oh, are you going for a title or you're not? Or you're up or down? like almost like the Undertaker. When you look at his career, how many titles he had didn't matter so much because he was just this huge side supernatural phenom or whatever. And Kane was like that too, almost akin to like Andre the Giant or something, who would like tour around and like didn't matter if he had a belt or whatever. He was just this force that no one wanted to mess with. And then just live with the entrance, and just you almost kind of wanted to like, keep him at bay, where he didn't get in the mix kind of sometimes. So, but sometimes you had to, if that makes sense. So, I wouldn't.
Yeah, that's a fair way to describe him. Yeah, like I wouldn't say he certainly wasn't being jobbed out or anything in his feud with X-Pac. He was being very much protected. And you're right. He's just someone you could kind of push down a little bit, but as soon as you need him, bring him back up, and the fans totally buy it, especially during this era. One other thing I wanted to mention at the top of the show, because we've been getting a lot of confused messages from our attitudinals. We've been talking about The Undertaker coming out to this "You've Done It Now" song, and turns out we've been bamboozled. This is all a network edit because they don't want to pay for the rights to American Badass. When he came back from day one, I actually went and I looked up the original like pay-per-view tapes or whatever on YouTube, and some of the segments that we've already reviewed on YouTube that have been pulled not from the network tapes but from original recordings. And from day one he came out to American Badass by Kid Rock, the song that sampled Sad but True by Metallica. So great edit by the network here, because I really thought he was just coming out to this big booger red entrance theme.
Yeah, how weird, because I remembered, like I said before, Kevin Dunn playing it over and over, ruining the plane trip. Like, oh, what a great song. Like, so I knew it was like in the air, but I couldn't really quite remember, sometimes because you're doing off something else, whether it was like if it segued into it at some point, but like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and also it explains how Joe C just started showing up all the time. Clearly, WWE forged a relationship there, and we're just capitalizing on it,
Right.
Want to give a shout out to our fan Alex for pointing that out. He's the one that was like, hey, I think you guys are making me go crazy, because I remember very certainly. And so I went and I checked. So apologies on our end. And this is why we need our attitudinals, to keep us in check. And of course,
I know. There's some watching these old shows. There's so many things. Oh, I remember this. I remember this. I remember this. Then I watch it like, no, that wasn't it at all. You just like you I guess what they say, you remember your memories and you don't remember the event. So watching them are always like, what? I didn't think that was there, et cetera, et cetera. So bamboozled. Yes. So thank you. And as always, if we make any mistakes or anything like that, you can always send us some feedback, tftattitudeera@gmail.com, or on social media, TFT Attitude Era on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok. It's the only mistake we've made so far. Ever. Yeah, I agree. But if somehow we do that again, please let us know. So yes, we get a recap of SmackDown with the 3 number 1 contenders. We started off with Michael Cole cornering Vince McMahon entering the arena. And he says, how does Triple H feel with 3 number 1 contenders? And Vince says, surprisingly, you think I care about how Triple H feels? He created his own problems. If he listened to me, he wouldn't be in such a situation. What am I doing carrying my own bag, he asks. And Brisco and Patterson are right behind him, and they rush to grab it. Always fun. After the intro and the pyro and ballyhoo, as Kevin Dunn used to say, we have Triple H and Stephanie coming out. He tells the crowd to keep it shut. This is a hot crowd in Rochester. They are awake the whole time. They're going along with the show, behaving the way you would want them to. Couldn't ask for a better crowd, I think. Yeah. And he says, never has this belt meant so much to so many. You can't blame them. This belt proves you are the undisputed best that there is. Almost veered into a Bret Hart catchphrase there, but not quite. Also using the term belt, which Vince McMahon probably chewed him out after because he prefers championship. Or maybe at this point it wasn't as clear cut. Well, maybe he's just making a point too. I can't remember. Those things go both ways. Then he goes, everyone hates it. I'm going to start saying it. Oh, I see. Well, but I mean, the audience didn't know that,
he's just working Vince.
Yeah. And everyone kind of like, oh, this is a taboo thing. I'm going to say it. Or he just said it. Because the problem with that is you do in a moment just say it because it literally is a belt.
I mean, no.
So you call it a belt.
Yeah. He says, competition turns me on. Ooh. What turns me off is egos. Some might say I have an ego, but I should have an ego because I'm the champ. One person that has a big ego talking about how big his grapefruits are. I'm talking about your father, Stephanie. Maybe 4 months ago when we were talking about taking over, maybe we should go back to that plan. And there's a whole chant immediately as Vince comes out. Now, I want to pause here and put on my smart mark hat. And watching this, I feel like I'm not buying it that Vince and Triple H are not getting along. It seems a little, I don't know, forced, but out of nowhere. I understand that it's because of the storyline from SmackDown where Triple H booked a number one contenders match, Vince booked a separate number one contenders match, and then Shane himself booked a third number one contenders match, and they didn't talk to each other. I guess the story is maybe miscommunication turning into blame here. Would you say that's the case?
Yeah, I would say why it doesn't really get over for me a lot is just that they both kind of like, now we're doing our presentational promos of smugness and how we're having heat between us. You know, and it just didn't seem like, I'm pissed off. You fucking said this. It's like, and who's got an ego? I've got an ego. And I don't know. For me, I remember this segment was kind of like, oh shit, this isn't really great. Oh, this is long. And, you know, it makes sense to be like, let's always put in the seeds of dissension between the regime, that I'll call it, which is always a good thing because it's like, oh, is it going to crumble? Is something going to happen? So you always keep that alive. But this one just kind of, this whole segment went long and kind of affected the whole show till the main event kind of like, everyone's matches are cut short because there's a laborious sort. Yeah.
It did feel very laborious. I agree. It felt like it ran too long. And I just, like I mentioned, I just wasn't buying what they were trying to sell me. Maybe if there was some tension at the end of SmackDown, like after Triple H lost and Kane won, instead of the final shot being Kane, over Triple H with the title and the fire blasting, maybe Triple H should have rolled out and him and Vince should have had a little bit of an argument to kind of set this up, which would have made it a little more believable. Like one of them storm off or something. I
agree. Just something that's a little more like, gosh, I don't know what word to use. I don't want to say realistic, but you do sometimes need a little like heat between them in either a backstage thing or instead of before you come out with this presentational microphone stuff, and it's kind of it's like, okay, which I always have like a lot of times the presentational microphone stuff in the center of the ring and what have you, or on the stage is can be pretty dicey, Usually Vince pulls it off amazingly or The Rock or whatever, but if it's not like a quick hit or a response, but this one was belabored. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And honestly, this is just the beginning of it. Like it gets way worse after you leave, in the next few years, especially with Triple H with these like meandering 20-minute this business, So we're still getting off easy ultimately. Okay. So Vince comes out, gets greeted with a soul chant. And I love when he does this. He goes, "Do you hear what they're calling you?" But like they were calling you that, Vince, not Triple H. Triple H says, Vince says, "I believe in the laws of the jungle. The stronger will eat the weak." And this, I think he truly believes this. This isn't his character. This is the real Vince McMahon speaking. But if you think it's your time, wrong. Your biggest accomplishment is marrying my daughter. Remember, I made you and I can break you. Triple H retorts, "You made me? Well, just remember this, Dr. Frankenstein. You made the monster, but the monster can take over anytime he wants. It was just a short time ago, December, that I was kicking your ass all over these arenas." He snuffs Vince. Vince takes off his jacket. They get into a shoving match. Shane runs down and breaks it up. I think it was a disservice that Triple H mentioned, if I could just pop out of the recap for a second, that he mentioned that he beat up Vince in December, because again, as a smart mark, it kind of reminds me like, wow, they really shifted around this story, like realigned everyone in such short time. Like I almost think you shouldn't have brought that up. Like he could have been more vague with it maybe.
I think it's a good thing to bring up, but it just somehow it wasn't hot, this segment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If they really came to like a disagreement, because I remember even like, maybe he should have like taken the title off of him or something, and it really being like, I'm the, since I'm the king of the jungle, or done something. There was like no stakes, they, even though they got in a shoving match, you're kind of like, okay, well, he's, same shit's going to happen with the number one contenders or what have you. You know what I mean? It just was like, I don't know what's happening here. You know what I mean? If let's say
absolutely,
he's like, and that why I'm taking this title off you, and the title is vacant. You can't do that. I kicked you, or something to elevate it. So it just was kind of like flat. So yeah. That's a problem with soap operas too. When you start to really recap what's happened, and you're like, oh my God, 40 things happened over there. This is unbelievable.
Yeah, exactly. So then Shane runs down. He breaks it up. He says, hold on. It's their faults. There are 3 number one contenders. In fact, he says, I'm sorry, it's Vince's and Triple H's fault that there are 3 number one contenders. In fact, Shane says, maybe I should be running the company. And now both Vince and Triple H drop their heat with each other, and then they both double up on Shane and both smack him. And then Stephanie steps in and she smacks Triple H and Vince. And as the crowd is just like, all right, The Rock's music hits, and then the crowd erupts. Now the crowd is in it. Rock has a surprisingly tacky but awesome silk shirt with a tiger on the back, and it feels like it's a silk shirt with cotton to resemble like tiger fur or something on the bottom. It looks so. It looks very nice.
All I know is for the tackiness of it. At this point, I'm sure that shirt cost $900 minimum.
At least, yeah. I was just gonna say, yes.
Yeah,
absolutely. The Rock has the mic. He says, "The Rock doesn't see a family feud, the champion, or anything. The Rock sees 3 of the biggest stinking smoldering pieces of monkey crap being slapped around by a $2 slut." Now, when I say that, you're just like, what are these words? What are you saying?
Yeah.
This sounds stupid. But the way The Rock delivered it, it was exactly what the crowd wanted. I am not The Rock. It's to your point of like, it's not just the words on the paper, it's the person delivering them.
Yeah, on paper, this whole thing kind of like, it seems to work great. Like, oh my God, then Shane comes out and then they all smack each other and like, oh, they're in turmoil. But it weirdly didn't work. And then when The Rock came out, none of it mattered. Just like,
it's The Rock. Yeah. Oh, that's all they were. The crowd just wanted The Rock to come out and insult everyone. And he says, The Rock wants his title shot, and The Rock wants it tonight. And The Rock has 2 options. He can go to the back and wait for his title shot, or option 2, the one the crowd always likes, The Rock can walk down there and whip your candy ass. Crowd goes crazy. The Rock comes down the ramp. As he's about to enter the ring, Kane's pyro hits. Rock, you got it all wrong. I am the number one contender, and I want my title shot now.
I think Vince should have had him say all those like we talked before. I always have a pet peeve for either someone who has a slow voice or someone with an Eastern European accent having to have all the syllables of the WWF championship. They should have made him say all that stuff. I want my shot at the WWF championship, Rock. But they didn't. Missed opportunity.
Next time.
Next time.
I'm sure Kay will get plenty more promos throughout the next few weeks. As soon as Kane finishes this promo, Undertaker
Wait,
comes
Rob,
out.
you do know we can't go back in time and change this stuff. It's already happened. You do know that. I just have to remind you of that sometimes.
We just don't have the technology yet. Soon.
Okay.
By the time we
right.
get there, we'll be able to.
Oh, okay.
It's like James Cameron with Avatar. Like he had it written out, even though the technology didn't exist yet. And then once it happened, then it happened. So don't count.
Okay.
Don't count technology out.
All right, I won't.
Undertaker comes out. He says, "In all my years here, I've never seen so many assholes gathered in one place." And Undertaker says he wants his title shot tonight as well. Suddenly, Vince has an idea. He says, "Tonight, Rock, Kane, and Undertaker, you will wrestle in a triple threat match to determine the true number one contender. And then the winner faces Triple H tonight." First of all, I was very shocked that you were giving away a world title shot on Monday Night Raw, which I guess happened more often back then, but still seemed like a special occasion.
Well, the whole Attitude Era kind of always stunned me for the fact that like TV was becoming as important as pay-per-views. And now we look at like, what is a pay-per-view, a PLE and all that, you know, because you had to deliver. And then at a certain point, it was shocking to me where I'm like, oh my God, there's SmackDown, there's Raw. You have to deliver these huge things that are becoming really similar to pay-per-views. The only difference being pay-per-views, the timing is a little different, you know, as far as the amount of time in matches, and they're not like quickly, you know, edited or you know, truncated in a television version, you know, or you know where the segments are tighter, they're a little like looser, but really no bigger things happening generally in pay-per-views besides maybe title things like you said. But you know, I'm kind of shocked that people are like, I was always wondering like, why are families like spending so much money on pay-per-views when there's like 5 hours of this free a week, you know, but it kept happening, you know, and especially this era, remember, you know, pay-per-views weren't cheap, you know, and they were charging
they were like
huge
$30.
money. Yeah. And then more for WrestleMania and what have you, but just like people just kept eating it up and just, you know, that's why it's a multi-billion-dollar mess today. You know, so.
Yeah, now you could argue, I bet I guess not before the ESPN deal, let's say, there was an argument that with the new TV deals, they were making more off TV than the PLEs, so to speak. So now that distinction is even less so because back then the TVs were used to sell the pay-per-views and the house shows. The house shows were a big revenue line. Now house shows barely exist. They do maybe 10, 15 a year now. So the business model completely changed.
No, exactly. And it changed, especially with the WWE network that came in. Yeah. And I do remember like that people said like, it's about a year ready. And Vince said, I want it in a month. And that came out pretty rushed. And I remember people were like, well, if I'm spending $9 a month to get everything, why would I still buy pay-per-views? And the pay-per-views were still available for money. And then I know there was some controversy where people were like, just, you know, get the network and cancel it. You'll get the free pay-per-view every time, you know, and you know, instead of paying like for the pay-per-view, I'll just get the network for $9 and then cancel it, you know, and things of that nature So it kind of put things in turmoil, but like, that's what Vince liked. But yeah, it's a totally different model now.
So just to wrap up the segment, Vince decides Rock, Kane, and Undertaker in a triple threat match tonight. Winner faces a Triple H tonight. Another smart mark thing is like, why would The Rock, Undertaker, and Kane? Now, I know I'm too in the weeds here, but like they both were guaranteed a title shot, and now they're being told they have to win a match to get a title shot. I would get my lawyer on the line. We're getting screwed here, you know? But then I did, you know, taking the smart mark hat off, it led to incredible television. So,
well, also this is sometimes when you bring all these things up and something, hey, why would they do that? Right. So then you'd be like, you'd have to think it through in that moment. Why would I do that, Vince? Well, hold on then. Well, what will we do for... Sometimes you're just like, fuck it. Just don't, you know, sometimes like the less you bring up, the less you paint yourself into a corner. So, you know, sometimes, but you're exactly right. Like, Why? Because they're competitors, always ready to prove themselves at any time.
Right. All three of them want to show that they're better. They're more deserving than the other two.
But don't bring that up in a promo, because then it'd be like, why do that? Why go like, why would I do that? I'll do it because I'm a competitor. Just forget it. Just accept it.
Yeah, I mean, really, you're right. It could have just been saved with one line where Undertaker was like, I should be the number one contender because I'm better than the both of you. And then Vince could be like, oh, you think you're better than both of them? We'll prove it. And then blah, 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 something like that.
Yeah.
But either way, I guess it would have still had that problem. But that's why you just got to avoid it. Sometimes you can't acknowledge the plot holes. Yeah.
It's like a thread on your sweater that's just like, oh boy,
right.
Oh boy, oh, the sweater's got
Then we have Rikishi and Too Cool against Val Venis and T&A. I'm liking adding Val to the T&A package. I know it's brief because we're about to get right to censor very soon, but he fits in with them and it gives him a role, and it gives all three of them a role. And I like him with Trish. We get a recap of Sunday Night Heat last night. This kind of shit, King of the Ring season is important because we're getting recaps of Heat. Val Venis advances in a qualifying match in the King of the Ring tournament. And watching this match, not much really goes on. It's pretty by the numbers. But one thing that really stuck out to me is I think you could argue that right now, the most over act in the company is, without question, The Rock. The second most over act in the company, there's an argument that it's Too Cool. They get ridiculous pops. The Worm is so, like, the crowd was in a frenzy for Too Cool. It's wild because it's like, it's wild because it started maybe ironically, but now it's 100% sincere. It's not like they're great wrestlers. Don't get me wrong, but these characters aren't about work rate. They're not about flashy moves. They're just about having a good time and doing the Worm.
No, it's one of those things that you just, and that's what I like about wrestling of this time and in the past, and maybe it isn't so much there today, but it's like wrestling has to respond to where the crowds take it, where the live crowds take it, where the pops dictate, because you would never book it like this, and you'd never write a thing where a guy would be like, you lay and sell on your back while this guy looks to the crowd each way. The crowd goes bonkers, and he, and he stalls and he stalls, and then he does this Worm. I mean, people are selling for upwards of a minute, before he does the thing, which really has no impact as a physical move. It's all just crazy gaga, but it's so over that it must be done. And everyone realizes in the company, like, oh, of course, when you're out there and you're like that, why would I do that? Why would I succumb myself to the Worm? Why would I, listen to the crowd? Oh shit. Of course it has to be done. It's too huge. So that makes all these like moments and these things that pop up in wrestling, you have to react to things. It's organic, it's not about just like put it on the paper, we write it and we contrive it, there's a push and pull to that. So yeah, it's mystifying, and you keep going like, is this just going to keep getting over more and more at some point?
Yeah, it is. It's crazy because it's like every week. I try not to mention it every week, but sometimes I'm just so fascinated because it's such a moment in time, and you look back and you almost forget, or I definitely forgot, like how big it was, because just, with the hindsight, it seems like a very corny gimmick, but wrestling loves corny. Sometimes the corny stuff is what gets over the most.
Without a doubt. And also you even almost go into this kind of crowd psychology phenomena. Look at like, Kane and Daniel Bryan. Yes. I mean, that was pretty simple and just got this momentum, and people were like, I can't wait to go. Yes. Like, what was that? How could you have written that? Sometimes it's just like, oh, this momentum of people just like in this kind of like communal moment, not to be fucking heady about it, but it's like, oh, it just grows and grows. And like, what is it? Doesn't matter. It's over. It's growing, Hulk Hogan like cornered so much of that with just, you could argue like, oh, it's the same 4 moves and the leg, like nothing about it is that special. But when he's like, just looks to the crowd and people are like, they're all just, I've got to go share that communal moment. It's like, it becomes unbelievable. It gets a life of its own. So yeah, you just stay out of the way. My goodness.
That's a great point. Just stay out of the way. Let it happen.
Yeah.
Trish gets on the apron for the ending, tries to use her boot as a weapon. She takes it off of her foot She takes it off of her foot. The boot off of her foot. And so she's holding it in her hand. Grandmaster Sexay grabs the boot, stops Trish. A big commotion, but essentially the camera misses the ending. But Val picks up the boot, hits Grandmaster Sexay, and steals the victory as there's a big schmaz at ringside. And as always, as is a custom in this era, as I've discussed, a face cannot just lose. They have to get their heat back, especially an act as over as Rikishi and Too Cool. And so after the match, they attack the heels and they attempt to get a stink face on Val, who's in position for the stink face. Trish gets in the ring and gets in between them and tries to stop Rikishi. Rikishi pulls back like he's about to make a fist and hit Trish. And Trish flinches so hard, she gets knocked over right into position for a stink face. And she gets like the back of her head knocked out on the turnbuckle. And it looked great. She did a really great job getting into position. And then Rikishi gives Trish the stink face. Jim Ross says Trish's face is in the Grand Canyon. Or maybe it was Lawler who said that. Fun little moment, I thought. And it's good. It's good because you gave the crowd this since you didn't give them a table spot later in the show, which I felt absolutely they shouldn't have gotten. So
right.
This was good.
Huge. Just a huge moment. Yeah, it's so funny.
Yeah, it's great. Also, like the stink face is another move that's so... It's right up there with the worm, but it's like the heat of it is that how embarrassing it is to take it, like, yeah.
Well, it hits the whole checklist. It's embarrassing, but also it's physically intense, from this huge, differently shaped Polynesian athlete, it's devastating, to be like, it's not just, you know what I mean? It's not just, like a corny spot. It's like, ooh, that could hurt. That could break your neck. Yeah.
Backstage, everyone in the McMahon-Helmsley regime apologizes to each other. And the shot shows you the door to their dressing room as they're apologizing. And in the background, you kind of see Crash running from a distance, about to attack Gerald Brisco, who has his back to the door, and then Brisco just happens to shut the door right as Crash is about to attack him, and so Crash runs into the door, and you hear a spill on the outside. Nice ongoing bit throughout the show here.
Nice little piece of business, absolutely.
Yeah. I like that you're getting back into, you're refocusing Crash to get his hardcore title back. We have Road Dogg versus Chris Benoit. X-Pac and Tori are out there with the Dogg. Benoit has an early advantage. Basic match. Goes to the top rope. Tori distracts the ref. X-Pac throws him off the apron. This prompts the Dudleys to run down. They dispose of X-Pac. Tori is checking on Road Dogg. Bubba... I guess there's just no finish to this match. It's just a spot finish. And then so Tori's in the ring checking on Road Dogg, and Bubba is behind her, stalking her, grabs her by the hair. Crowd is going banana. They think they're about to see a table spot. Devon sets up the table. They're about to do it, but X-Pac low blows Bubba and saves Tori. This is great. You absolutely did not. The crowd didn't need to see this table spot. They need to earn this table spot.
Right.
Like, you're really building up Tori as like a big target for them. So I like that you're stretching it out as much as you can.
I agree with you.
Nothing really, not much to the match. I guess it was just an excuse to get this angle over.
Also, bear in mind, all these matches were cut short.
Oh, cut, right. You were saying.
Yeah, especially live. That's so difficult when, like, because as it's set up in the beginning, like, okay, you got 6 minutes for this. Okay, you got 7 minutes for this. And then later, like, oh, that's 4 minutes now. Oh, so everyone's like, oh, shit, our 6 minutes that were planned went to 4. Even if they're, just got a spot and they're doing it out there, it definitely has its wave of badness through everyone's matches.
I could see that, and
you can feel it, can't you?
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. Yeah, I was right. As I was writing, I was like, oh, there's really not much to this match. So it's just at a certain point, it sounds like you just have to get through it and not worry about it.
Or if there's spots and it's too fast, it happens just too fast, and it becomes like, oh, that was weird. Yeah,
like
things
in the
don't
last
develop.
Match.
Yeah.
So backstage, Cole is interviewing Patterson and Brisco, and they're standing in front of a curtain. And then there's a separate camera shot. The camera cuts, and we're behind the curtain. And you see that Crash is right behind them, stalking them. He tries to attack, but as he does, once again, Brisco and Patterson are able to run off. There's an interview with Kane. He's asked how he's preparing, and one of the competitors is his brother. Kane responds less in the robotic voice and more in his natural voice. He says, in this match, there are no allies, and when it comes to the WWF Championship, I don't have a brother. Good. I like that. And I like the idea of Kane and Undertaker battling his faces. It's a cool visual. And in general, like at this point, we've only seen it a handful of times. So it's not necessarily played out yet. After the break, Crash is done playing games. He comes to the ring, demands a hardcore title match. Pat Patterson comes out. He introduces the best hardcore champion of all time. Gerald Brisco comes out to Hulk Hogan's old theme song, Real American. Patterson tries to throw his dirty underwear in the ring at one point. Crash intercepts them, throws the underwear on Gerald Brisco's face. Hall of Famer Gerald Brisco is in the ring with a soiled pair of briefs over his face.
Yes, he is.
And so the match ends when Brisco is in the corner. Crash comes running towards him. Brisco stops him, knocks him down, goes for a pin. Patterson jumps on top of Brisco, doubling the pin, and they're able to make sure that Crash doesn't kick out. And so Brisco, with the help of Patterson, retains in a very schmozzy kind of match. Crowd was totally dead for this. They did not like this. Or maybe they were just at the bathroom. Yeah.
Because I remember, like, it's one of those things pitching like, oh, that's controversial. Then Pat should be like, no, I won. No, because you helped me pin. And they could have gone to them having a hardcore match. But the lack of excitement kind of went for that. So.
Oh, so there was more to it, and then you decided to nix it because the crowd was
when I say there's more to it, it's like, yeah, hey, how about this? No, okay. There's more. There was more to it, but it wasn't like I put it in motion in the official match booking memo that was then rejected. It just was like,
Well, that sounds like a you problem.
Yeah, well, but also sometimes it's like you said, like the crowd's not into it. The crowd rules, or the crowd, takes. If they would have gone bonkers, and that would have happened,
Backstage, Undertaker is asked about Kane's comments that in this match he doesn't have a brother. Undertaker basically just agrees. He says Kane's right. They're all ready. You've done a great job. While I didn't like the opening angle, throughout the show, you've done a great job of building up this number one contenders match, I think, because it does feel like a main event, like a big match that we're about to see. It's not just like any old episode of the show. Now it's time for the triple threat main. Well, it's not the main event yet, but it's the match to determine the number one contender. Winner faces Triple H later tonight. Rock versus Kane versus Undertaker. Triple H comes out on commentary. Says he hopes they all kill each other and he'll swoop in and pick up the pieces. What a heel. And this is the first time that Undertaker is wrestling without his jumper, because this is an actual match. It's not just him, making easy work of somebody in like 2 minutes.
Right.
This is a full-on match, so he has to have his gear on and, be ready to rock. Undertaker goes for a tombstone early on the Rock. Rock kicks out of it, fights, and reverses it into a rock bottom. Huge pop for that. Kane attacks, gives Rock a choke slam. Undertaker and Kane have a brief stare down, and I'm like, oh, hell yeah, I want to. It's so weird because I feel like since Undertaker is in this new gimmick, this feels completely fresh to see him and Kane looking at each other. And as always, because Undertaker is such a, you forget, massive dude.
Right.
It's so cool to see someone, this being Kane, like on the level with him. That, like this is his. It's like Ken and Ryu from Street Fighter, you know, like two sides of the same coin.
And also like the new gimmick of Undertaker, like it's like, oh, he's like a biker badass, but then you still see some of the things like that were like, oh, is he going to pop up again? Is he going to no sell? Right. Those little like things are like, oh, they still work, or you just like see how that stuff is happening.
I agree. That stuff was fun when he would pull that out as the biker. Right. Undertaker and Kane are just wrestling. It seems really cool. It seems like a big deal, I think. And Triple H leaves the announce table and assaults the Undertaker on the outside, according to Jim Ross. Undertaker eventually gets his receipt, prompting Triple H to get a chair and smash both Undertaker and Kane with it. After smashing Kane with a chair, Kane turns right into a rock bottom. Rock wins the match with Triple H's help. And then Triple H, of course, gets in the ring and smashes The Rock with a chair. Rock versus Triple H is our main event tonight. I was like, no way you're giving this match out for free, but you did. Yeah. You had a full-on match. I was very impressed. Smart Mark Rob was satisfied with what happened there. You had a full match. I thought it would just be like, I thought it would be like one of those NWO main events where it's like they go for a minute and then everyone just runs out. And then it's over. Right. But no, it wasn't like that because this is WWE or WWF at the time, and you knew that WCW was doing it, so you didn't want to disappoint the fans like that. So I appreciate that. Then the Godfather comes out after the break. He's out there with Dean Malenko, and he does his usual spiel that gets interrupted by Eddie's music, Eddie Guerrero. And we learned that China advanced last night on Heat against the Godfather in a King of the Ring qualifying match, which sets up this tag match here. And I like that Godfather and Dean Malenko are just affiliated now, just over a random sketch. This is a very, very quick match. It all makes sense now that you're saying that all the matches got cut, because I feel like this is a perfect example where you were trying to tell a story here that really didn't come across because everything had to be so rushed. Because Eddie gets thrown to the outside where in the section where the hoes are, and all the hoes surround Eddie. And because he's so charismatic, they're all in love with Eddie. And he's kind of like using his charm or whatever. And China's supposed to get upset at this, but you don't even have time to give her have a reaction shot of China being upset. You just hear the announcers kind of talk about it. And eventually Eddie gets thrown in the ring or something, and he just wins with a quick roll up on Dean Malenko. And then he's begging China for forgiveness, and she just quickly is like, all right, I forgive you.
Yeah.
All right, that's fine. So you tried. That's what I'll say for this. But I still, it's fine. And it is crazy, though, like how as I'm recapping the show, not knowing at the time what you were saying about all these other matches having to be cut, it really has put a dent in the whole show. Like all of these undercard angles or whatever you want to go, like non-main event angles, all suffer because of this, essentially, because of the time cut.
To me, it's one of the hardest things that Monday Night Raw, one of the most difficult things to overcome with Monday Night Raw. The most impressive things I've seen with all performers are always that, like, you might look at a match and be like, oh, that was okay. And it's like, you have no idea that was a 6-minute thing. And then this happened. And then the ref said, you got to go home now. And they pulled it off. There's so many things that they pull off that didn't make horrible moments, that were just about truncated time. And just even, going through something where, at the beginning, you're like, you have 6 minutes. Okay, that might be cut. Oh, no, it's back. You need 3 minutes. Or, it's very confusing for the performers. So and this is a perfect example because, that needed to breathe. And you put it like perfectly where It's like she begs forgiveness of what? Oh, this thing that just happened in 10 seconds. Like, fuck it. And as they say, sometimes it's like, well, it only hurts for a minute. Move on.
It's not right. Behind. This was just like a little wrinkle that you didn't. It's fine.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. And what you just said actually kind of blew my mind. The idea of like getting something cut and then reworking your match and then being told, oh, actually we're adding back 2 minutes, and then being like, I just convinced myself of, like we just worked it out where everything fits and now we have to redo it again. Yeah. Brutal.
Sure. Well, I've seen things too like this where like, okay, I've got Pasbani down, and then you got to go home. But oh shit, he's supposed to win. Fuck. Kick me in the nuts. It's over.
Yeah, right.
Roll me up. What? Just whatever.
Right. After the break, we have another King of the Ring qualifier: Hardcore Holly versus Faarooq. And man, this was a stiff one.
Yeah,
you've been throwing Hardcore Holly some real big guys to wrestle lately. Last week it was like Benoit, him had a crazy. I guess the constant here is Hardcore Holly. He's the one bringing out these stiff matches out of people because this was really, really stiff.
He was he's one of those guys. He'll never complain. He'd rather have it. Yeah. Like I said, give me a black eye all day. Don't break my nose. Don't chip my teeth. Black eyes, I don't care.
Black eyes are fine. Yeah. Don't fracture a bone or anything.
Yeah, don't break my nose. Don't chip my teeth. That's all I ask you.
Faarooq is going for his finisher, the Dominator, and Hardcore Holly kind of wriggles out of it and then reverses into a quick suplex brainbuster type maneuver to get the victory. No heat back for Faarooq. Just 1, 2, 3, get the hell out of there. Angle is hyping up Edge and Christian for their match. He says, I know you guys are upset, but I know that if we win tonight, we would defend the honor of Stephanie. And they're like, okay. What? And then Angle sees that that doesn't really move them. And he goes, and then she would give you guys another title shot. And they go, then we want to defend her honor. Yeah, no, because that's all we care about. And so they come out, they say that Rochester, and this is the only time that Rochester is actually mentioned on the show. It's the home of the best chili dog 3 years in a row. It's the home of the Rochester. I don't know what teams play here or if they're any good. And that gets a bit of a boo. And he says, it is the home of the Kodak film. And Angle says, your Olympic hero finds it ironic that the Kodak moment was created in such a place with such ugly people. Boo. So here's your true Kodak moment. And then they do a 5-second pose with exaggerated smiles.
Nice.
So it's Team Eck, Edge, Christian, and Kurt Angle versus Chris Jericho and the Dudleys. This is a fun match. Already the crowd not paying attention, just chanting, we want tables.
Yeah.
Really hot action. Arguably, this isn't the work rate match of the night. The main event is. But almost. This definitely gave people their money's worth in terms of great back and forth action. The crowd was into it. Dudleys get in. They tease a 3D on Christian. Edge pulls Christian out, distracts Devon. Angle runs in, gives an Olympic slam to Bubba for the quick win. Angle gets the win. But of course, the faces will not stand for losing. This is the Attitude Era. Jericho runs in, puts Angle in the walls of Jericho. They dispose of Edge and Christian, quickly get a table in the ring, and give Kurt Angle a 3D into the table. The crowd gets what they want. Yes. All the crowd wanted was just some tables.
This oddly, and I don't know why, but for me, it was like, because often like last minute throw together sort of 6-man tags are like, oh, whatever. Although Team Eck is certainly better than your average just thrown together 3-piece. But somehow this worked symmetrically great for me. It just seemed like Chris Jericho with the Dudleys versus, Angle and Edge and Christian. It just had a weird symmetry where it's like, oh, that's actually works, should almost bring up a 6-man tag team championship.
Yes, a trios title. I can't imagine that in WWE, but I'm a fan.
No,
I'm a fan of trios.
But if you were, this would be the two contenders. This was like somehow like, because you're always thinking like that when you're booking, like, oh, how can this, go on? Could this be a feud? But, things get so convoluted or, end up in the waste paper basket. But like, I was surprised at like, oh, this works really great for me. But then, you bring it up like, wow, that really worked great. And then like, well, enough about that. All right.
Yeah, McMahon barely liked tag teams. I don't think he's going to book trios matches. Yeah,
I know.
Or 6-man matches. Then we have the Hardys versus Bossman and Bull Buchanan. Lita is watching backstage as she has been the last few weeks. I'm surprised. Like in my memory, I feel like Team Extreme formed like almost right away. I didn't realize there were all these weeks of building and tension about it. But it's fine. Right. I like it. Yeah. Quick match. There's a miscommunication between Bull and Bossman. Again, I just want to mention another quick match. Like every match was affected by this. Like every match was like only 3 minutes because of this miscommunication. Bull and Bossman butt heads. Hardys capitalize. Swanton bomb and a win. We got a shot of Lita being happy backstage, and then a completely rushed breakup angle between Bossman and Bull. Like this could have happened, they've been on TV the last few weeks. There could have been tension for the last few weeks, and then finally it boils over. But instead you just breeze right through it. Bull, like Bossman is chewing Bull out. Bull is over it and then goes, turns his back to the Bossman. You can never do that, Bull. Haven't you been studying tape? Because Bossman grabs the nightstick and just attacks him, hits him in the head. You didn't deserve that, Bull. Maybe you did for being such an idiot. Well, backstage, Triple H is in the McMahon-Helmsley locker room and says, no screw-ups. He doesn't want anybody out there. He wants to do it all on his own. Vince is like, we saw what happened last time you said that. And he was like, I'm not kidding. I'm going to beat The Rock. And after the break, Cole interviews Triple H. He confirms he's going to prove he's that damn good. Cole says there's a special referee tonight, Earl Hebner. That piques Triple H's ire, and the crowd kind of pops, which is so amazing. Sure. The head official gets a pop. He says it won't matter. All he has to do is count to 3. Then we have a segment that I very much enjoyed, and I'm so glad this finally happened. Cole is talking to Stephanie McMahon, says she has yet to defend her women's title since winning it. Stephanie says she doesn't even have a number 1 contender. How could she defend it? Ivory and Jackie storm in. They've been asking for months to get a title shot. And Stephanie says on SmackDown, we'll have a women's battle royal, and that will determine a number 1 contender. All right, let's go. Finally, giving Ivory and Jackie some screen time. They've been off TV for weeks after those incredible feuds and angles with Mae Young and Fabulous Moolah. They were rewarded by being pulled from TV. Yeah,
I know.
It really. I like watching back now. You kind of think like, oh, it was such a small roster back then, but they're like when you really branch out to all the featured players, there's really a lot of people that aren't on screen every week. And I can only imagine showing up to TV and like lobbying. Like, did you have like people like Ivory like lobbying you, being like, hey, you want to write something for me this week? Like something like that.
Not specifically, because the problem is you realize too that everyone's in a predicament, you know what I mean? And it's kind of like, there's so much stuff that's presented that's just shut down for reasons not like that's bad. It's just like, oh, there's too much, it's an embarrassment of riches. You know what I mean? And sometimes, and then, when you're booking and Vince is, okay, we got these main people, let's concentrate on this. And you're throwing things out there. Sometimes things just get, okay, we'll do that. So, there's only so much you can do, and I think everyone realizes that too. It's not like, hey, where's my stuff? You know what I mean? Because that isn't like it's a weird thing for a pro wrestler. Like the squeaky wheel gets, noticed, but at the same time, you can't be too much of a pain in the ass. So you got to be a team player, so all this stuff. But
right. If you complain too much, then it backfires essentially, right? Like,
right.
To your point. Yeah.
And that's what, like, I kind of always loved looking at Heat in a way, because it would be like, oh, you could do things on Heat that were cool that could get noticed, and then things did kind of segue in, but it seemed like, just, and sometimes just the pace chewed everything up. That was always the hardest, disappointing thing. You'd be like, wow, you came off a successful run this week, and then you're kind of feeling like, fuck yeah, we did nothing with the ladies. Ivory and Jackie are so great. There's, this, that, the other, that, you feel like you failed a lot of people just because you can't get everyone over, or for whatever reason, even though there's 5 hours, just, you don't have the, capability to do that. And even when the writing teams expanded, it was like, oh, there's just more shit to go through to put in there. So it's a conundrum.
Great point. You're right. Yeah. So it is interesting though. You still do try to eventually get to everyone. And there seem to be like 2 or 3 segments a show where you're like, all right, let's cycle somebody in that hasn't been on TV for a little bit. And it's nice. And now I feel it's probably even harder because now somehow the roster is like 3 times as big. And even though there's more hours of TV, it feels like they do less segments overall. So there's less, there's probably less wrestlers on a show now than there were 25 years ago, even though it's like a 3-hour show or whatever, just because they stretch out these segments so much.
Yeah.
You didn't have wrestling matches go 3, commercial breaks or 2 commercial breaks or whatever back then. So
yeah, and sometimes you feel the performers being forced where like, well, here's your opportunity for mic time and whatever. So, you kind of get the same thing like, oh, I better be like really on it. And, and even the match is like, I've got to, be high impact and nothing like breathes, so to speak sometimes, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's difficult.
Then we have our main event, Rock versus Triple H. I looked at the time cues and there was plenty of time left in my video player length. So they had a match. I was very, very pleasantly surprised. Why did I say that? Had a match. No, it was great. This was a wonderful television main event and satisfying. Unlike, like I said, WCW at the time would promote like, oh, it's Bret Hart versus Sting, and then they wrestle for 1 minute, and then that's it. There's no ending.
Yeah,
and it would be far worse than anything I'd ever criticized you for with WWE. That's what I actually appreciated about WWE is there actually were finishes to matches.
And also there was a philosophy to deliver a main event, and that was what became difficult sometimes as far as like trying to book the middle or the beginning of the show is like, well, we got to concentrate. What are we going to do with The Rock? What are we going to do with Austin? But Vince was right in that, all through this era of like, if you look, there was always like, sometimes I made the joke before. It's like, oh, it's like the NBA. The fourth quarter is exciting. Sometimes, the show could be convoluted and rough, but if people have a huge main event and they go home happy, they looked at the whole thing as a success, and often it was. So that was like the most important thing in booking, and this show is no exception.
Yeah, so this was great. I even wrote in my notes, I can't believe they're doing this match. Very hot crowd for this, very hot match. And I guess you could give it away because you just had these two wrestle on pay-per-view 2 shows in a row. You're not probably going to be a while since they have a singles match again on pay-per-view. So
right,
you can't like it's not. You're not disposing of a potential future pay-per-view main event right here. So it's actually very smart booking overall.
Yeah, and also
in general.
Yeah, they know each other. They're going to have a good match. And also
right, they wrestled like thousands of times at this point.
Yeah, and you're kind of bringing, the Undertaker back in. And that's also a thing to realize that sometimes they don't talk about in pro wrestling. Like no matter how good the guys are, like in football or whatever, it's like, well, let's have the guy come in for a little bit and get up to speed physically and whatever. Because someone's off for injury or whatever, they timing, all kinds of things is off. So you don't want to just like, and boom, main event status. Can be a little like, that's a little rough or whatever. So you have The Undertaker and Kane, so it makes sense. Like these guys are operating on all cylinders. They're ready to go. And those others, are coming along slowly. So it made perfect sense.
I didn't even consider that point, what you're saying about the coming back from injury for Undertaker, like you can't just throw him out into a 30-minute match, his first match. You have to like build up his gas tank a little bit. And I'm sure he's working on the house shows he's doing, like getting his cardio back in or whatever, but you still want to protect him.
Yeah. And also
and
even if
sure
he can,
he looks his best.
He can do it physically. It's like timing and such, it's like, players in the playoffs of in any sport are like, oh, they're operating on all cylinders. You can't just like pop in there like that. So
yeah. That makes total sense. So Rock has the advantage. It looks like Rock might win. So of course the entire McMahon-Helmsley regime faction comes down. They did not listen to Triple H. We get a ref bump, and of course, DX starts interfering. Now, I will say, though, at least there was like a good 7 minutes until the schmaz ending, which is fine.
Right.
Because I assumed it would be 1 minute. I assumed there wouldn't even be a match. So,
right.
And of course, like, as far as expecting and we even got a decisive ending, actually, even with the interference. So, no, this was really, really well done. The ref is bumped. DX comes down. They start interfering. So, of course, Undertaker and Kane come down and they clear house. Kane choke slams Triple H. Undertaker choke slams The Rock. And Triple H just rolls onto The Rock and gets the pin off of Undertaker and Kane's work, which is a great little wrinkle in the story that, The Rock had the match won. DX came down to save Triple H, and it was in fact not DX or Triple H that were able to end The Rock or keep him down for the pinfall. It was a choke slam from the Brothers of Destruction. So Triple H wins the match, and a great call from Jim Ross to end the show. We started the night with 3 number 1 contenders, and now we have none.
Yay.
Which then, that's what my smart mark radar went off of, like, oh yeah, why would they agree to this? They were all number 1 contenders, and now none of them could get a shot. So it's very clear you're building to a fatal 4-way at the pay-per-view, and I'm curious now. I think the pay-per-view is like 3.5 weeks away, so I feel like now you really do have to start kind of setting it up a little more. So I'm curious where this goes on SmackDown. And while the beginning of the show felt a little repetitive, by the end of the show, I was definitely like, oh, I'm curious where they go with this. Like, I want to watch SmackDown now, so you can't ask for anything better than that.
And how things were going then too. I remember it was just like settling into, especially when you have these big players like that. It's almost like, boy, you don't even want to get into the pissing contest of where things should be. The nature of what I did was just like, I remember, here's a bunch of suggestions. Oh, and you just kind of go down every avenue of thought where it's like, what if Kane and The Undertaker like turn on The Rock and become part of the McMahon-Helmsley regime and kick out you know what I mean? You're looking for huge dramatic things. So you write all kinds of possibilities like that and just send it and see what oh, I like that, or that's not going to happen, because at this point when you have these big players involved, I would just be like, here's suggestions, as opposed to like, this should happen or that, you know what I mean? Because it never is working out like that when you have it's like, well, see what they agree to, and see what, if any of them think that's good or, because it's always going to take Vince to be like, yes, that's a dramatic thing that we would like to happen. And yeah, I don't want to do that. Okay. Yeah, that'll be wasted. So you just never know at some point. So that was that's where the job started to get a little like, it was always fun like that sense, but that would just became, with these big, huge players involved, which I can't imagine now dealing with everyone to be like, it can be unsatisfying being a part of a writing staff or whatever, just like, oh, here's 8 things that can happen. Oh, we'll see, if that makes sense.
Interesting. Yeah. So you kind of felt like you were, like using your brain for stuff that wasn't going to be used. So it was like a waste of your resources in a sense.
I don't want to put it too negatively like that after, it could be, but like, cause it still was like intriguing, to come up with these things, but it just became, I don't know, when you're just like a bigger part of or you're a smaller part of the machine at a certain point, you're like, well, I think that might be a good way to go. Well, that isn't going to happen. Fine. It just, the process became a little more convoluted once you get more writers and more people involved. Then it just becomes like, all right, I'm throwing 40 things at the wall, and I can't imagine. I never worked when they had like big staffs, but I can't imagine like, okay, there's 10 people. Let's see what they all came up with. Half a dozen will come up with the same sort of things. It just became more shit to go through to pass on, as opposed to when there's less people in the room, it became like more exciting and possible. Or it was always good, when Vince was there and you're traveling with him, because then you get an immediate response to like where you're possibly going with something, as opposed to like you're 2 layers away from it. And it's like, well, here's 40 ideas. What's going to happen? I don't know. You know what I mean? You got to kind of wait for the rumor mill. Did they hear any of the pitches? Is that coming back good? I don't know. You're just kind of in the weeds a lot, and like not knowing. So maybe that becomes more unsatisfying. I wouldn't put it like, oh, my precious brain power or anything. You're just like,
so who would be the intermediary when Vince wasn't in the room? Who would you be pitching to?
Well, that's the problem.
Bring it to him.
Everyone, you know what I mean? It's kind of like a convoluted mess, and a good, when it worked great, it was great because you'd have production meetings and people would bring stuff in, and what have you. So they're like everyone, you'd bounce stuff off Shane, Stephanie, whoever, and it would just like kind of like naturally, organically work. Once it got bigger, that's what I think. There was no exact hierarchy. And then once they tried to like put one in, like, what is that? That's bad too, like, and then it became through the years later, I'm sure, like, well, now you're SmackDown head writer and you need to, do this with this person. It just became, to me, just like a big, more difficult, convoluted mess, which made it like less fun,
No, absolutely. So at this point, how many writers were there? I mean, obviously there's Vince, Shane, Patterson, Brisco, Stephanie. How many non-wrestlers are there?
Well, this is still like Gewurz, Kresge. There's a couple like came in and left. So, still like 3, 4.
Okay, so still relatively small. But you're starting to notice that the chain of, and I think also like in a few months, Stephanie is named, I think by the fall, she's named the head writer, and like they do try to organize it, right? And that becomes a bit of a mess.
I'm kind of like on my way out, in terms of like that, and I don't want to paint it like a bad picture, like it's just it's a natural part of the cycle, because with these storylines and this kind of success, at a certain point, like something has to happen. It's like New England Patriots had to lose a Super Bowl here or there. Things things can't just operate at that like optimum level like that. And also the problem with pro wrestling, and is a lot like, oh, these guys are over. How do we bring new guys in? Oh, shit, we got to always respond to the numbers. We got to that's why like bring the old guys back, and how do you establish new guys, etc. So it's a difficult process. So
yeah, and you were mentioning a few weeks back how like this is when you started kind of starting to think about your escape plan, your exit plan. And I was just thinking as you were saying this, that like, oh, if you think about it, WWE had, like, when you came in, they had a terrible breakup. They were recovering from this like huge breakup. And for this whole time until right this moment where we are in the story, they were just trying to like push the ball forward. Now it feels like, oh, things have settled a little bit. You're in a groove. And you kind of know what's going on, and it's not as confusing. And you've come out of the haze of the Vince Russo. You being WWE have come out of the haze of the Vince Russo breakup. So maybe now is when Vince and them are trying to think like, oh, let's maybe organize this a little bit now that we have a handle on the stories some more.
Yeah, and also you got to look at like They added SmackDown. Just there's so much original content that has to just be pushed out. So it's natural at a certain point where like, oh, this is going to go south a little. Like, why wouldn't it? You know what I mean? Because you're running like you're just running the same things over and over sometimes, and you're like, wow, the and the business is evolving, for lack of a better word, or changing. People used to run programs, meaning like a feud or something, things that would back in the day run for 6 months. Tito Santana and Greg Valentine traded the Intercontinental Championship back and forth and feuded for seemingly like years, and things were doled out a little on TV and you went and saw it live. Now, 2 weeks storylines are like exhausted, and there's a lot of like, I think what's difficult is like, did that get over? No. Hey, we're planning this. Oh, flat match. Pfft, it's done. A lot of like stuff like that. Like, okay, so you just at a certain point are like, wow, it's just diminishing returns, for people and performers. And also, it's such a weird business as far as like, why are things successful? Is it because they were booked? And at a certain point, you could argue, you know what? Why is this whole era successful? Austin and The Rock and The Undertaker, you know what I mean? How do you start to quantify or qualify what is the success of it? Sure, it's symbiotic. It's like, it's the production. Sure, it's the booking. It's this, but ultimately, it's like it's the star. And so it becomes
you could have the best production in the world, but if you're not putting out compelling stories or characters that people can connect with, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, like we said, frankly, sometimes things get redefined into like, was that a compelling storyline? Well, it was, because The Rock came out and they went bonkers. What did he say? He didn't say shit. I mean, there's certain like elements where if you really look at it, we're like, well, he's so fucking over. Stay, like we said before, stay out of the way of it. So then it becomes after like, writing staffs and what have you. I think we really wrote this thing. Happens in TV and whatever. It's like, you know what? You're full of shit. It was just a huge star that everyone loved. And it just smoothed over all the fucking problems with that shitty storyline because they were so over. You know what I mean? And, others like, well, that's a good storyline. Oh, but it wasn't executed well. It's that's the nature of it that sometimes gets difficult. And it's the same thing with like football or something. They say like, the coach takes more heat as failure and then gets more success, but basically it's the players. You know what I mean? Like, like in football, you never say like, why did you have him fumble in the fourth quarter? I didn't. He fucking fumbled. You're a bad coach. Well, he dropped the ball. So it's a goofy business. What can you say? It's totally reasonable to be burnt out.
I think that was actually, that's very insightful. I always enjoy these, like, inside baseball kind of talks about all that stuff, because you don't really hear writers talking about that. So that's very, very cool.
Yeah. And ultimately, sometimes I feel weird talking about it because the thing I loved about pro wrestling is kayfabe. And when I was young, and it's almost sad to be like, in a way, I feel like, yeah, this is interesting. It is behind baseball, but no one should hear it and no one should give a about that because it should be presented as a real thing that isn't real. You know what I mean? And once you start, because even if you look at movies or stuff, I guess it makes sense. Like, they talk to the actors and how this, but sometimes I hate nowadays where like so much promo is out there before the product. And you're like, where's the illusion? Like maybe I don't want to hear, all this tedious behind the scenes stuff. And especially with wrestling, when it was like, the kayfabe was so brilliant because it was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Right. So.
Like sometimes I feel like now at WWE, they don't keep enough kayfabe, almost like this Unreal show. Like there's certain things where I'm like, I don't know. I needed to see that. I don't know. I needed that illusion broken for me,
yeah. But, and even that is so contrived where that's not a real representation of behind the scenes. It's just like, we go through this process and here's this Venn diagram and like, what? You know what I mean? It's still not. Yeah, it's odd. And then like we talked before, like, social media, here's a weird double swerve on social media that no one's buying. Or what is it? You know what I mean? And like, so what is, kayfabe's definitely, I don't know, morphing into something odd, and it's very weak, now. So
yeah.
Which saddens me. Oh, well.
Well, if you have any kayfabe breaking questions, please send them over. tftattitudeera@gmail.com is the email address. We love any and all feedback that you send our way as we roll on the road to King of the Ring 2000.
Nice.
And I'm very
we
excited.
Retro roll. We're retro rolling to 2000.
We're rolling back the tapes, folks.
Yep.
And as always, we appreciate all your patronage and your fandom. Give us a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Tell your friends about us.
Yeah.
Tell your wrestling fans, because this is the podcast.
Tell your enemies about us.
Yeah, definitely tell your enemies. Be like, oh, we gotta hear this thing. And we'll see you next time on Tales from the Attitude Era.